So today we are going to cover, the main thing we're going to cover over here would be identifying and applying answering techniques to inferential questions. All right. So when we say inferential questions, right, basically when we answer, we want you to give us the best answer out of all the possible answers. And the best answer is the most probable answer according to society and most people's behaviors. So you can see why that would be an issue, right? Because a lot of you don't have the experience in society, out there working, or even like doing projects too much with other people to actually make inferences about people's behavior. But some things we can tell based on the stories that we read, based on what we observe about our classmates and our schoolmates' behaviors, right? So the PSLE examiners know that as well. The setters of your exam would be the Singapore Examination and Assessments Board. The exam setters, right, they would know that as well. So the inferential questions they give you would test you on a knowledge that you should have, okay, based on whether you've been observant of your classmates or not. If you haven't really been observant of their behavior, or you don't really know why people do the things that they do, right, when you go on the bus or when you're in the car and all that kind of thing, or even your own parents, then that might be an issue for you because you will infer in a way that it's different from what people expect you to infer. Okay. So, and a good inference, like what I always say, a good inference is, when a person walks into a shopping center and then you see that, oh, it's raining outside, right? And that person is drenched, that person is wet. A good inference would be that, oh, that person probably got drenched by the rain. He or she forgot to take an umbrella out with him or her, or he or she forgot to wear a raincoat. Okay, that's a good inference. That's a very probable kind of explanation. But a bad inference would be, oh, that person was probably playing water guns, right, with his or her friends. That's not a very good inference, right? It's not very probable that that happened. All right, it's very uncomfortable to be wet when you're in a shopping center that's cold and the aircon is blasting at you. Okay, so that's not a very good inference. Yes, Jeremy, how did you know? Where's Jeremy? Aha, yes. Hi, Jeremy. Yes, I did. Okay. So that's what inferential questions are all about. All right. Before we go there, we'll cover some vocabulary MCQs. Whoops. Vocabulary MCQs and editing very quickly before we go to the important part, which is the comprehension open-ended part. All right. I hope to finish a little bit faster today so I can give everyone some tips on your PSLE that's happening tomorrow and things to look out for, all right, and how you can do well for your writing. Just some very quick tips. So during the class, same thing, turn on your video, all right, leave your microphone muted. If you have a question, all right, or you want to answer a question, or you want to share some feedback, use the chat function on Zoom, right, to let me know. If there's something urgent, raise your hand, all right? You don't need to raise your hand if you want to go to the toilet, okay? But you can raise your hand if there's something urgent you need to do. And or there's a very urgent question you need to ask. All right, wait for my permission to unmute yourself first before you start speaking. All right, if you need to go to the toilet, just go, but inform me in the chat group. Say, Mr. Joel, I'm going to the toilet, okay? And leave your camera turned on so that I know when you're back. If your camera is turned off, then you need to ask for permission from me because I wouldn't know whether you're back or not. All right, and be respectful to all your fellow students and teachers. Next, let's begin. Vocabulary MCQ first. Let's go. So since there's so many students here, I'm expecting 30 students today. I'm going to just explain the answers directly, and then you can listen and understand the different answers and why they are like that, okay? The liar, there is no class next week for the P6s, okay? For all of you, today will be your last class, okay? And then the class for next year will begin in 3 weeks' time, and you will be going for the Sec 1 classes already. Okay, if you continue with 88 tuition, you'll come for our Sec 1 classes. And then I'll tell you guys a bit more about the Sec 1 classes, because Sec 1 is a whole different ball game. If you thought your PSLE was difficult, right? Wait till you get to secondary school. Okay, it's much, much more difficult. That's the bad news. The good news is there's 4 years, 4 to 5 years for you to get used to the curriculum in secondary school, because you can either go to the express stream all the way up to Sec 4, or the normal academic or normal technical stream all the way to Sec 5. Okay, so anyway, number one, the new laws will be just as those they replace. So over here, the answer is actually C. Whoops, why isn't this changing? This always happens to me. Yes, oppressive. Okay, when we say something is oppressive, all right, we kind of have the mental imagery of being pushed down. Okay, like there's like a thumb pushing you down, right? Oppressive. So when something is oppressive, right, it actually means that it limits your rights. Okay, it limits your rights when we talk about laws. Oppressive laws, all right, limit your rights. All right, and sometimes they're oppressive because they are biased towards a certain group of people, or towards a certain race of people, or certain culture, that kind of thing. For example, during before World War II, right, when Hitler's Nazi party actually came to power, he enforced a rule that said that basically all Jewish people in Germany, right, did not have the rights of citizens. Okay, they should be deported from the country. All right, they should be treated as less than human, that kind of thing. And then they were all basically ported away to trains and sent to concentration camps, where they were all gassed, and then they were all killed, basically mass murdered, right, with in gas chambers. That's one way that they were killing the Jewish people. So that was a very oppressive law. It's like saying that, oh, because your culture and your religion is like that, right, you are not worthy of being in this country. So that's a super oppressive law. All right. So in this case, what they're saying is the new laws will be just as oppressive as those they replace, right? Means the new laws are no better than the old laws, right? The old law was really horrible. The new ones are really horrible as well. So for example, the old law could be something where they say there's no free media, which means people can't just report stuff, right, that they know about, or report the truth. Whatever that they report has to go through the government, and then the government has to approve, that kind of thing. So that could be a very oppressive law. People are not free to express themselves. Kian, you have a very good imagination. What's a synonym for oppressive? Let me think about it. A synonym for oppressive could be, oops. Okay, this is a lesser degree, right? It's not as strong, but a synonym for oppressive could be restrictive. Yeah, so that's what an oppressive law is. Okay, we don't really say laws are aggressive, okay, unless they are being enforced all the time. So you can say the laws are being enforced aggressively, but the law itself is not aggressive. It's being enforced aggressively. For example, currently in the Middle East, there are a lot of countries where they insist that if you are a Muslim woman, right, you will have to wear the hijab, which is the tudong, right, that covers the side of your face. And if you are not, they will catch you, all right, and they will arrest you, and then they will charge you. And then you have to go for some kind of training classes, that kind of thing, to train you to be a good Muslim woman, that kind of thing. So those are being enforced very aggressively. The police, they are actually like a police, right, catching women off the streets simply because they are not wearing that headscarf around their head all the time. So that's a very aggressive law, because the police are enforcing it, right, 24/7, which means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's very aggressive the way they enforce it. The law itself is not aggressive, all right, if it's being enforced all the time, police are everywhere making sure the law is being followed, it's enforced aggressively. Okay. Next, excessive means too much, basically. All right. Excessive means too much. We don't really say laws are excessive. All right. A law is just a statement that, it's like a statement about what everyone should do. Everyone should follow this particular law. We don't say that they're excessive. All right. But what we can say would be maybe the amount of money that you are given under the new law is excessive, is too much, doesn't make sense. All right. Or maybe the punishment if you break the law is excessive, right? That's a bit too much. Some people say that Singapore's death penalty is excessive, right? They say that, oh, we shouldn't have the death penalty in Singapore. It's so cruel. People deserve a second chance, that kind of thing. So yeah, they do criticize us and say our law is excessive. Possessive means you have a very strong desire to control and possess something. All right, so possessive is normally not used for law. All right, possessive is used more for humans. So let's say, for example, okay, the liar, one day you have a boyfriend. All right, I know now it's like, oh, boys, ew, yuck, right? But just for example only, okay, you have a boyfriend. Then every day, right, your boyfriend will message you every 5 minutes. The liar, what are you doing? The liar, are you with another guy? I don't want to see with another guy. The liar, what time is it? Where are you now? Liar, when are you going to meet me? I mean, you want to do this, you want to do that, want to do this, want to do that, that kind of thing. And the liar will be like, oh my God, I'm going to break up with you, you crazy man, right? You are so possessive. Every minute, right, you need to talk to me all the time. My goodness. Yeah, Cassidy said then she should just break up with him, right? Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that's like a possessive. You want to control someone, or you want to control something, right, so strongly, you want to possess them as if they are your property. So it's called possessive. Okay. That's why they always say demons possess us, right? Because the demon, if you believe in demons, all right, the demon wants to control you. The demon wants to control your life and your soul and everything. So that's possessive. All right, it's very controlling. That's right, Yashika, precisely. Okay, moving on. Number two, because Ellen has a what? Excuse me. Because Ellen has a what sense of humor? She often makes jokes about people dying. All right, the word here that we're looking for is morbid. Okay, why? Because the clue here is people dying. Okay, morbid means to do with death and ghastly things. Okay, ghastly means like horrible things. All right, so the answer here is morbid. All right, so people with a morbid sense of humor, right, would actually find topics like about like dying or seriously injured, or maybe your, I don't know, your stomach fall out of your cavity of your body, that kind of thing, or you puke up blood, that kind of thing. They find it very fascinating and very funny to them. So those are people with a morbid sense of humor. Like like suddenly the car comes and crashes into someone, and that person bursts into blood, that kind of thing, right? Then they'll start laughing. Like, that's so funny. It's like a morbid sense of humor, right? Maybe they've been influenced quite a lot on the things that they read and watch, right? That's why they develop a morbid sense of humor. Most people don't have that kind of humor though. So that's the clue here, right? Why we should be using the word morbid. Okay, can we have a sarcastic sense of humor? Yes, we can. All right. But the clue here is people dying. Okay. And we can't really say eccentric. We can say eccentric sense of humor, but once again, that's not the answer here because it's all about people dying. All right. Tammy laughed. That's good. All right. And of course, inferior means like less good, right? Not as good, inferior. But once again, the clue doesn't over here doesn't really tell us that she has an inferior sense of humor. All right, inferior means not as good as other people. So, or not as good as something in comparison. Okay, so there's that. That's quite straightforward. Number three, Michael often complains about people in a rude way and is very what of everyone around him. It's a very rude boy. So over here, critical. All right. Critical means very